Shrimvatam Swagata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha.
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha.
Hirdayanata Stodhad Adharani.
Hridanta Stotya Bhadrani.
Vidhunoti Srit Satam.
Vidhunoti Srit Satam.
Nasta Prayesh Adhadreshu.
Nasta Prayesh Adhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavate Kamashloke.
Bhagavate Kamashloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, and unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasdev, the author. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Text 21. Samplava,
Samplava,
Sarva,
Sarva,
Bhutanam,
Bhutanam,
Samplava, Sarva, Bhutanam,
Samplava, Bhutanam,
Samplava, Sarva, Bhutanam,
Samplava, Bhutanam,
Vikrama,
Vikrama,
Pratisankrama,
Pratisankrama,
Vaktrama, Pratisankrama,
Vikrama, Pratisankrama,
Vikrama, Pratisankrama,
Vikrama, Pratisankrama,
Ishta Prutasya,
Ishta Prutasya,
Kamyanam,
Kamyanam,
Ishta Prustasya, Kamyanam,
Ishta Prutasya, Kamyanam,
Ishta Purutasya, Kamyanam,
Ishta Prutasya, Kamyanam,
Trivargasya,
Trivargasya,
Cha,
Cha,
Yo,
Yo,
Vidya,
Vidya,
Trivargasya,
Trivargasya,
Cha,
Cha,
Yo,
Yo,
Vidhi,
Trivargasya,
Chayo Vidhi.
Trivargasya, Chayo
Please repeat.
Samplava sarvabhutanam.
Samplava sarvabhutanam.
Vikrama pratisankrama. Ishtapurtasya kamyanam.
Ishtaputasya kamyanam.
Trivargasya chaya vidhi.
Trivargasya chayo vidhi.
Samplava sarvabhutanam.
Samplava sarvabhutanam.
Vikrama pratisankrama.
Vikrama pratisankrama.
Ishtaputasya kamyanam.
Ishtaputasya kamyanam.
Trivargasya chayo vidhi.
Trivargasya chayo vidhi. Samplava sarvabhutanam. Samplava sarvabhutanam. Vikrama pratisankrama. Vikrama kamyanam
Ishtarautasya kamyanam
Trivargasya chayo vidhi
Trivarnasya chayo vidhi
Samplava sarvabhutanam Vikrama pratisankramaha Ishtapurutasya kamyanam Trivargasya chayo vidhi Samplava.
The perfect means are complete devastation.
The perfect means are complete devastation
Sarvabhutanam.
Sarvabhutanam
Of all living beings.
of all living beings.
Vikrama.
Vikrama.
Specific power or situation.
Specific power or situation.
Pratishankrama.
Pratisankrama.
Ultimate destruction.
Ultimate destruction.
Ishta.
Ishta.
Performing of Vedic rituals.
Performance of Vedic rituals.
Portasya.
Portasya.
Pious acts in terms of religion.
Pious acts in terms of religion.
Kamyanam.
Kamyanam.
Rituals for economic development.
Rituals for economic development.
Trigarbhasya.
Trivargasya.
The three means of religion.
The three means of religion.
Economic development and sense gratification.
Economic development and sense gratification.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Ya.
Ya.
Whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
Vidhi.
Vidhi.
Procedures.
Procedures.
Translation. Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, and how they are annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, sense satisfaction? Please repeat. Please explain unto me
Please explain unto me
how the living beings are generated,
how the living beings are generated,
how they are maintained,
how they are maintained,
and how they are annihilated.
and how they are annihilated.
Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages
Tell me also the advantages and disadvantages
of discharging devotional service unto the Lord.
of discharging devotional service unto the Lord.
What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions
What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions
of the supplementary Vedic rites?
of the supplementary Vedic rites?
And what are the procedures of religion,
And what are the procedures of religion,
economic development,
economic development,
and sense satisfaction?
and sense satisfaction?
I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Samplava, in the sense of perfect means, is employed to denote the discharging of devotional service. And Pratishamplava means just the opposite, or that which destroys the progress of devotional service. One who is firmly situated in the devotional service of the Lord can very easily execute the function of conditional life. Living the conditional life is just like plying a boat in the middle of the ocean. One is completely at the mercy of the ocean, and at every moment there is every chance of being drowned in the ocean by slight agitation. If the atmosphere is all right, the boat can ply very easily, undoubtedly. But if there is some storm, fog, wind, or clouds, there is every possibility of being drowned in the ocean. No one can control the whims of the ocean. However, one may be materially equipped. One who has crossed the oceans by ship may have sufficient experience of such dependence upon the mercy of the ocean. But one can ply over the ocean of material existence by the grace of the Lord very easily, without any fear of storm or fog. It all depends on the will of the Lord. No one can help if there is some unfortunate danger in the state of conditional life. The devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety, because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:13. The Lord also gives special attention to his devotees and their activities within material conditioned life. And this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:29. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. One should know, therefore, that the expert spiritual master, the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service, just as Maharaj Pariksit asked his spiritual master, Srila Sukadeva Goswami. According to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, one should not eat more than he requires to maintain body and soul together. Vegetable diets and milk are sufficient for maintenance of the human body, and therefore one has no need to eat anything more to satisfy the palate. One should also not accumulate money to become puffed up in the material world. One should earn his livelihood easily and honestly, for it is better to be a coolie for honest livelihood than to become a great man in the society by hook and crook. There is no harm if one becomes the richest man in the world by honest dealings, but one should not sacrifice the honest means of livelihood simply to accumulate wealth. Such an endeavor is harmful to devotional service. One should not talk nonsense. A devotee's business is to earn the favor of the Lord. Therefore, a devotee should always glorify the Lord in his wonderful creations. A devotee does not decry the creation of the Lord, defying him by saying that he has created a false world. The world is not false. Factually, we have to take so many things from the world for our maintenance. So how can we say that the world is false? Similarly, how can one think of the Lord as being without form? How can one become formless and at the same time have all intelligence and consciousness, direct and indirect? So there are many things for a pure devotee to learn, and he should learn them perfectly from a bona fide personality like Sukadeva Goswami. The favorable conditions for discharging devotional service are that one should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. The Lord in his form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted the cult of devotional service to the Lord to be preached all over the world, in every nook and corner, and therefore a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily duties of devotional service, but in trying to preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. If he is not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee, because he is a soldier in the field. Preaching the cult of devotional service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. There are different kinds of materialists, such as the fruitive workers, the mental speculators, the mystic jugglers, and so many others. All of them are against the existence of Godhead. They would declare that they are themselves God, although in every step and in every action they are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, a pure devotee may not associate with such gangs of atheists. A strong devotee of the Lord will not be misled by such atheistic propaganda of the non-devotees. But a neophyte devotee should be very cautious about them. A devotee should see to the right discharge of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and should not stick only to the formalities. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one should see how much service is being executed, and is not simply a matter of rituals. A devotee should not hanker after anything, but he should be satisfied with things that may automatically come to him by the will of the Lord. That should be the principle of a devotional life, and all these principles are easily learned under the guidance of a spiritual master, like Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Sukadeva correctly, and one should follow his example. Maharaj Pariksit inquired about the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, the process of Vedic rituals, and the method of executing pious activities in terms of the supplementary Vedas, like the Puranas and the Mahabharata. As explained before, the Mahabharata is the history of ancient India, and so are the Puranas. Pious acts are prescribed in the supplementary Vedas, Smritis, and they are specifically mentioned in the matter of digging tanks and wells for water supply of people in general, to implant trees on the public roads, and to construct public temples and places of worship of God, to establish places of charity where the poor destitute can be provided with foodstuffs, and similar activities are called purta. Similarly, the process of fulfilling the natural desires of sense gratification was also inquired about by the king for the benefit of all concerned. It's a very long report. So here we can see that the questions continue by the Emperor Maharaj Pariksit. He's inquiring from his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami. He's asking how the living beings are generated and maintained and annihilated, the perfect means for discharging devotional service, and that which will destroy devotional service. He's also inquiring into what are the rituals and injunctions of Vedic rites and procedures of religion and economic development and sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport that one who is firmly situated in devotional service to the Lord can very easily execute the functions of conditional life. He goes on to say that the devotees of the Lord are able to cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety, because a devotee is always protected by the Lord. And this is further explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9:13. I'm going to read that now. It says, O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature, and they are engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Also in this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the Bhagavad Gita 9:29. It says that the Lord gives special attention to his devotees. It says, I envy no one, Sri Bhagavan speaking, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, and whoever renders service unto me in devotion as a friend is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Srila Prabhupada in this purport goes on to describe the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service. At first I was a little confused by this, advantages and disadvantages. But as I read the purport, I realized that it meant the things that will hinder us on our path to devotional service and the things that will help us on our path to devotional service. This is all nicely explained in the Nectar of Instruction, texts 2 and 3. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami has defined devotional service as follows in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anya Bilashita Sunyam, Janakarmare Anavritam, Anukul Yena Krishnanu, Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Uttama Bhakti, or unalloyed devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. And this devotional service should be free from extra-strenuous motives, devoid of fruit of karma, impersonal yagna, and other selfish desires. So first of all, we should know what are the 9 processes of devotional service. And here in the Nectar Instruction, it clearly explains to us in text 2 and 3 the different principles and the different hindrances there are on the path to devotional service. Now there are 9 processes to devotional service. If one sincerely and earnestly tries to make himself perfect in just one of them, he will attain the favor of Guru and Shri Krishna. The first one and the most important one is Shravanam, and that is hearing. Now to hear, we must hear from an authorized person. We hear Srila Prabhupada say again and again, we must hear from a bona fide authority in the line of the Parampara. Let's see what Lord Krishna says in 434 of the Bhagavad Gita. It says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So we can see in this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Emperor Maharaj Pariksit is inquiring from a bona fide authority, Sukadeva Goswami. He's inquiring submissively. And this is very important. The next one is Kirtanam. Kirtanam means that after giving oral reception to the transcendental sound vibration, we should memorize it and repeat it. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned in this purport that that's what Lord Chaitanya wants us to do. He wants this cult of devotional service preached all over the world. And it is said it is our duty to discharge this order as far as possible, not only in performing our daily duties, but also in preaching this cult. So here it's very clear. Preaching the cult of devotional service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. The next one is Smaranam. Smaranam means we should try to learn more and more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padasevanam means we should engage ourselves in faithfully serving the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then there is Archanam. Archanam is serving the Murti of Lord Krishna in the temple. Vandanam. Vandanam is offering prayers and obeisances to the Lord. Dasyan. Dasyan means one should think himself always Nitya Krishna Das, an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Sakyam. Sakyam means we should always think ourselves as a well-wisher and friend of Lord Krishna. And as a well-wisher and friend of Lord Krishna, we should encourage others to also surrender to Lord Krishna. There's Atma Nivedam, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. Everything one has, mind, body, soul, everything. Now there are certain things that will help us advance on the path of devotional service, the path of bhakti yoga, and there are things that will hinder us. And as I said, I found a really nice explanation of this, all in the Nectar of Instruction. I'm going to go ahead and start with text 3. It says, there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. The first one being very enthusiastic. The second one, endeavoring with confidence. The third one, being patient. The fourth one, acting according to the regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, hearing and chanting, and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Now the first one is one should be very enthusiastic. It says in the Nectar of Instruction that if one is very fortunate, he will receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, of the creeper of devotional service. This is all by the grace of Krishna and Guru. And if it is offered to a sincere person, one must take advantage of this very enthusiastically. In the Nectar of Instruction, it says enthusiasm means action. How must we act? We must act in devotional service. And who must we act for? That is for Lord Krishna. Devotional service is not idle meditation, but it is practical action done in spiritual life very enthusiastically. Even in the material world, we cannot accomplish anything if we're not enthusiastic, if we're not encouraged. The second and third one is patience and confidence. We should never become impatient in the discharge of our devotional service. We can see that Srila Prabhupada started this whole Krishna consciousness movement here in the West single-handedly. We should never be impatient in discharging our devotional service. We should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of our spiritual master and guru to be successful. It requires patience and confidence. The next one is acting according to the regulations and principles. As I said earlier, we should not be idle, but very enthusiastically in executing the regulative principles. Tat tat karma pravartana. If we neglect the principles of devotional service, our devotional service will be destroyed. Now there are 4 regulative principles that we follow, and that is no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Those do not. Now one of the important do's is chanting our 16 rounds of japa every day. We must do this faithfully. The 5th one is that we must give up the association of undesirable people. This includes the karmis, the yanis, the yogis, and other non-devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked, what is a Vaishnava? Who is a Vaishnava? Describe a Vaishnava. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described a Vaishnava in the Nectar of Instruction as characteristically one who gives up the association of the non-devotees or other worldly-minded people. The last one, it says that we should follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. If one strictly follows the advice given by Srila Rupa Goswami, namely being enthusiastic, being confident, being patient, then our success is guaranteed. We must give up the association of the non-devotees, associate with the devotees, and faithfully follow our regulative principles. Now those are the do's. Those are the things that will help us advance on the path of devotional service. Now there are also 6 hindrances on this path, and that is found in text 2 of the Nectar of Instruction. It says, one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary, collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scripture rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. Srila Prabhupada says over and over again, human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. The first hindrance is eating more than necessary and collecting more than necessary. Atihara leads to prayasha, which is unnecessary endeavor. Lord Krishna has everything perfectly arranged for us here in this material world. Without much effort, we can easily secure milk products and food grains. Instead of using our intelligence to do this, most people use their intelligence to acquire so many unnecessary things. These unnecessary things only cause more bondage for us here in the material world. Jivashitadka Janasra. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. If our endeavor, prayasha, is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. And that's the second one, over-endeavoring for mundane things. This is very harmful to our devotional service. Even though we require economic development, true religion only allows for this as far as supplying the bare necessities of material life. The next one, we hear this one often, unnecessary talking, or japa. Now the 26 qualities of a devotee, one of them mentioned is that he is silent. This doesn't mean that he doesn't speak. He only speaks about Krishna consciousness and those things related to Krishna consciousness. This is very, very important. We don't speak about Krishna consciousness. We are simply wasting our valuable time and energy. The next one is Jnana Sangha. This refers to those who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and we should strictly avoid their association. Next is practicing the scriptural rules and regulations simply for the sake of following them, and not for spiritual advancement, or just rejecting them altogether, and working independently. Those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager to accept the rules and regulations for economic development. These rules and regulations should be for the advancement in Krishna consciousness. And again, it mentions we should strictly follow the 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating. The last one is associating with those not interested in Krishna consciousness. In the Nectar of Instruction, it mentions avoiding the Mayavadis who simply blaspheme the Vaishnavas. Also, we must avoid the Bhukti Karmis, those interested only in material happiness. The Mukti Karmis, those desiring liberation by merging into the absolute, the Brahmajyoti. And the Siddhi Karmis, those who desire perfection in mystic yoga. Desire to expand the mind by perfecting mystic yoga, or merging into the Brahmajyoti, or attaining material prosperity, are included in the final category of greed, and such persons must be avoided. Every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and rid himself of the above-mentioned 6 hindrances to our devotional service. One of the things I love about Krishna consciousness, there are many things I love, but one of the things I really love about Krishna consciousness is that it is a science. It is the science of self-realization. Srila Prabhupada, we hear him say in his purports and his lectures, that is not sentimentalism. It is not imaginative ecstasy. We can see here, it very clearly tells us exactly what we're supposed to do and exactly what we're not supposed to do. It doesn't leave any room for doubt. It says, do this, A, B, C, D. Follow these rules. These things you should not do, and you will liberate yourself from the cycle of birth and death. It is all very, very clear. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 2:40, in this path there is no loss or diminution. Even a slight advancement on this path will save one from the most dangerous type of fear. Saturday, Yogendra Prabhu gave a class, and he spoke about the bird in the cage, about how we spend all our time taking care of the body and providing everything to make the body so comfortable. Nice house, nice car, nice family. But the whole time, the soul inside the body is dying. We're not taking care of our soul. Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas have given us all these Vedic literatures that will help us to take care of our soul. These 9 processes of devotional service. This is what our soul is hankering for. This is the only thing that can truly satisfy us. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:26, Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevata sagunam samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. He says, one who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down at any time, at once transcends the molds of material nature and rises to the level of Brahman. Srila Prabhupada says in the beginning of this purport that we are completely at the mercy of nescience. Unless we take to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Krishna takes responsibility for us. and He helps us cross this ocean. And He tells us exactly what we're supposed to do, following in this process of devotional service. It says Bhakti Yoga, it says in the purport of 426, where there is Bhakti Yoga, Lord Krishna is present there. He is present with the devotee, and there is an exchange of love between the two. This is what we need. So for the sake of repeating myself, I think I'll stop here. Are there any questions, comments?
Very good class. Of course, I have one, as usual.
Just one?
What?
Just one today?
You did say something about enthusiastic, patient, and confidence.
Yes.
How you can develop all three at the same time?
Enthusiasm, patience, and confidence. I think the patience and confidence come in trusting Krishna. Trusting that if we do our duty, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, just do your duty, Arjuna. You do your duty and I will take care of you. So I think that's where that comes in, is the patience and confidence. And enthusiasm. You know, how bad do you want this? I mean, anything in the material world that you try to achieve, you have to have some enthusiasm. You know, that's just everyday basic life. So, if you really want to get to know Krishna, if you really want to liberate yourselves from the cycle of birth and death, then you have to go forward enthusiastically and be patient, trusting Krishna and trusting Guru, that no matter what happens, like I often think, even a setback is Krishna's mercy, because we can't sometimes see what's good for us. What may seem like a setback to us is still the divine arrangement of Krishna. It says when we attempt to surrender to Krishna, we are no longer subject to the laws of our previous karma. That Krishna takes direct control over our life. You know, before we attempted to surrender to Krishna, we're just at the will of our karma, our good karma and our bad karma. But when we come to Krishna and we attempt to surrender to Him, that doesn't have, He changes that for us. You know, He takes direct control of our life. And so even something that we see as a setback is still Krishna's arrangement. So everything must be done with enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm I have, patient I don't have.
It's an ongoing process. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai.
Very nice class.
Thank you.